Are you a transitioning military or veteran woman looking for support, guidance, and inspiration? You've come to the right place. Welcome to Living Unapologetically Beyond the Uniform with your host, Renea Jones-Hudson. Renea brings powerful stories, practical advice, and expert insights to help you redefine, rediscover, and reaffirm your life after military service. Whether navigating a career change, seeking personal growth, or focusing on your well-being, we're here to empower you every step of the way. So welcome the host of Living Unapologetically Beyond the Uniform, Renea Jones-Hudson. Let's embark on this journey together.
Hello, and welcome to Living Unapologetically Beyond the Uniform. I'm your host, Renea Jones-Hudson, a retired Army veteran, empowerment coach, and financial strategist. So, this show is all about helping female veterans navigate the challenging yet rewarding transition from military life to thriving in the civilian world. Each week, I bring on inspiring guests who have walked this path and share their stories of resilience, leadership, and growth, empowering you to reclaim your power and purpose beyond the uniform. So, this week, I am honored to introduce an incredible guest, Sandra Brownlee. Is a retired Master Sergeant with over 27 years of service in the Army Medical Department. She is the visionary behind Discovering Soldiers' Potential 2, the second time around, a nonprofit organization that empowers veterans and their families through transition support, housing assistance, and employment services. Her leadership and commitment to veterans have impacted many lives. And today we'll dive into her inspiring journey, her transition to civilian life, and the amazing work she's doing to support veterans. Sandra, welcome to the show.
Good morning or afternoon, I guess I should say. We're close enough. How are
Yes.
you, Renee?
I am well. I am so happy to have you on the show. I should have told a little bit about how we met because I am truly a fan, as you know. I call her boss, everyone, because she's just I remember the first time I met Sandra, I didn't really know her. We are both part of another group. And I remember when she walked in, she was talking like I felt like I was back in the service. I was like, I don't know if I should salute, go to parade rest. I don't know what to do. But she was so commanding. But it was still engaging. She was still, she just had a presence about her. And later I had to do a project with the city and I was like, I need to know how many veterans are in the city of Griffin. And everyone I talked to, they're like, you gotta talk to Sandra. So I was like, I don't know who Sandra is. I had her phone number in my phone, and then we called. I talked to her. She was like, I was like, oh, I know you. But just meeting her, and then just you'll hear more about her journey, her baby that we're both a part of. I'm proud to be her vice president. She's a great mentor, a big sister. I'm learning from her in every aspect. So, Sandra, just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to go into some questions about how you're living unapologetically beyond the uniform. So give us a brief synopsis of who you are and how you got here.
I have never had an introduction like that in my life. Can we re- can we record that and just keep it and use it for every time I go somewhere? Because that was fantastic. Thank
Yeah,
you.
of
I feel
course.
like I feel warm. I feel welcome. And I tell you, I can't tell you. And people always ask, and the first thing they always say to me is, "Why did you join the military?" That was your $1 million question. Why'd you join? And my $1 million answer is, I don't know. I honestly do not know. There was no family lineage of people in the military. There was no like influences around me that I was aware of at the time that were military related because I just didn't know. And growing up, it was during that Vietnam era, so I didn't know that era at the time. So I chalk it up to a couple of things. I think maybe I wanted to see something different. I was an avid reader growing up, so I wanted to see all the places I had read about, and I thought, hey, the military might be a good way to do it. Plus, I can run, I can do push-ups. Pretty
Right.
athletic. Can do that. Plus, I had a dad that was a disciplinarian. My mom and dad didn't play, so I follow rules very well. And so I actually joined early. I joined on the delayed entry, and of course, my parents were like, "That's not going to happen. I don't even know what are you talking about? Go sit down. That's not going to happen." So I actually had to wait a whole year where I could actually join myself because my parents were not allowing it. Now,
Yeah.
mind you, they're the most proudest people I could ever come across, based on what I've done for this country. So that was my journey began, and I knew that I enjoyed helping people. Even at that young age, I knew I was going to be some type of medical professional or some way of helping people because I did that also through high school in this medical service program they had in high school. And
Yeah.
so I knew what my path was supposed to be. I just didn't know what route it was going to take. It
I
wound up,
can appreciate that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the
So let
military
me
it
ask
was.
you this because I don't want you to answer all my questions before I ask them.
Okay. Okay.
So because we can talk very long. Okay, so with over 27 years in the military, especially in the AMED, Army Medical Department, you've seen firsthand the challenges soldiers face during and after their military careers, right? So
Hmm.
what inspired you to find or to create discovering soldiers potential the second time around? The two on that means the second time around. And it's kind of like a two-part question. And how has that transition, your transition, influenced how you serve veterans today?
I always use myself as an example. I never use anyone as I use myself and what I, as a 27-year vet, would have expected to receive leaving the armed forces. And I have to explain to the world outside of the military is that what people don't realize when you actually go into that little room at that MEP station and raise your hand, you are actually beginning a transitional process yourself to become a fighting force to protect this country. And so everything that you are used to knowing is actually removed from your thought process. You're supposed to be converted to be one fighting unit, and that's what those drill sergeants, job was to do. And so, with that being said, it works well for us because we follow a direct path in our mission to protect this country, and we do that very well with such a small force.
Yeah,
The problem is that only works while you're on active duty because there's pieces to the puzzle, and you're a piece to that puzzle. And
yeah,
so I did that for 27 years. So, of course, I was military oriented. That's all I knew. I mean, even having children in the military, even they're military oriented based on what
right,
you do.
right,
Everything is based on that protocol. So, when you decide to hang up your boots and retire and or just leave the service because you feel you've done your part,
yeah,
what the shortcomings is, and we have great transitional services on installation that you're supposed to have opportunity to do, but we also know the realism of the world is we have a small fighting force, and if you're an intricate part, it's not so easy just to release you to go prepare yourself for civilian world. We have to be
right,
realistic about certain things, and once again, I'm using myself as an example. As a senior non-com, you don't get that 6 months to a year to actually become demilitarized, as I
right,
say. And so, because of that, you leave the force looking for those things that you're used to getting on active duty. I tell people all the time the military spoils us because
yeah,
we only have to focus on one thing, protecting this country.
yeah,
So if you have
yeah,
a headache, you know there's a medic. If your
right,
money's wrong, there's a finance building. If you're hungry, there's a mess hall. If you're sleepy,
yeah,
there's I mean, for everything that you need, they're all taken care of.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
not like
think
that out here.
yeah, and that's kind of why I wanted to do this part too. It's two parts, right? To help our veterans transition, as best as we can, and to educate people that the transition we have to transition as well. The way we went in is not how we came out. We are
Hmm.
literally structured, or what's the word, programmed at, for lack of a better term, to do things a specific way. So for us, the way we process things, we're always one step ahead, or maybe 10,
Hmm.
especially on this side of the fence. So I appreciate you sharing that. One of the things I would really love for you to share, because I know you, is your path to starting Discovering Soldiers Potential. And I want you to talk about, where you started with the Dunkin' Donuts. I really want to, because I love that, because, we're so, like you said, we're so programmed to serve that it's something sometimes we cannot help, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's oftentimes misunderstood, but we're very resilient. We have a know-how, or we know how to tap into resources to provide support. So tell us a little bit about your story and how where you started in Dunkin' Donuts.
I was, and actually, I'm kind of like a little bit off on in that market because I was coming down the highway coming from somewhere in North Atlanta, and I was getting on the exit where Fort Gilliam is, and there was a guy standing there and he had the sign that says, "I'm a vet." He was at this gas station corner. He was like, "I'm a veteran, and I'm homeless, and I need food." And so, okay, so if you're a veteran or served in the armed forces, you know that that's sort of like a computer glitch. It just doesn't compute that the first thing you
Right.
see is a veteran who's homeless and need food. It was like, this doesn't even make sense. So because it didn't make sense to me, I pulled over at the gas station and I walked up to the guy and I was like, "Excuse me, I just want to ask you something. Where did you serve and how long did you serve?" And he told me, because you got to verify certain things. And I said, "Did you have a DD-214?" He was like, "Who are you?" And I told him who I was. And I was like, I want to help you if this is the situation you're in. Tell me what situation you're in. And he said he was living in this shelter, but he had attempted to go to the VA and he didn't know how to process. He didn't know how to do those claim processes or he'd get enrolled. And because he didn't have an address at the time, he couldn't get enrolled. It was just a lot of things he said that I don't know if they were true or not, but this is the story that was given to me. And so because of that, I said, "I tell you what you do. You see this Dunkin' Donuts here? It was the one indicator over by the South of Cab Mall." He said, "I said, meet me at this Dunkin' Donuts tomorrow morning about 9 o'clock. You gonna be here?" And he was like, "Yes, ma'am, I'll be here." So I showed up the next day there and I had my little laptop and my little paperwork and stuff. And, I'll retract by saying, being an IG in the military and in the medical service corps was a great benefit. I learned a
Right.
lot of what right looks like. And so enrolling him was very simple. He had his DD-214. I mean, that's the magic sheet. And if you have that thing, you're well on your way to being successful. So getting him enrolled was not that difficult. And then from there, you find shelters to place him. And there was, at the time, a shelter downtown that was housing veterans on the fourth floor. There was a great place for him to be. But in that process of getting him enrolled, he was then able to start going to the VA for these services. And then I did file his compensation in that Dunkin' Donuts now. And so from him, I get a call during the week of him saying, "I have a friend. Could you
Yeah.
see him at Dunkin' Donuts?" And so Dunkin' Donuts at that location, I think for the next 6 months, I was there every Monday and Thursday. And there was
I love
always
it.
folks waiting to see me. And
Yeah.
then I think I may have probably went to maybe 40 different Dunkin' Donuts across the state until I actually found a hard top home in Spalding County. But until then, yeah, we were laptop will travel. Dunkin' Donuts was fantastic because I mean the people there got so used to seeing me, especially the one in Riverdale. I like those guys because they would give me an ice cream cone if I was still working after 1 o'clock, or they knew what
Yeah.
kind of coffee I like, so they'd always get it ready. And they would say, "Miss Brownlee, do you want this today?" And I'd be thinking, "You already know me." So they were the best people. So Dunkin' Donuts, you have a great crew of folks. I always tell folks that's my favorite place to go is Dunkin' Donuts because they allowed me to sit in that corner and take care of veterans unbeknownst to them. They had free Wi-Fi, so that was fantastic. And then they didn't care about what that veteran looked like or what he was going through because they weren't always in their best. Some of them were homeless, but no
Yeah.
one would bother us as we, as I did what I did to help what I could at the time. And
Yeah.
that led to where we are right now.
And I want to give a shout out to
Mhm.
Dunkin' Donuts in Decatur.
For sure,
Thank you.
for
Because
sure.
now our journey from Dunkin' Donuts is to two
Yes,
locations in what, 7 years? And
yes.
it's amazing. So I want you to share that story. Every time someone asks you how you guys are, just start with Dunkin'. Okay, all right. So
Dunkin's okay with me, okay?
okay, so we're gonna switch gears a little bit. About leadership because that's been your life too, right? Serving in the military as a leader and everything.
Mhm.
um, what are some of the key moments when you had to redefine yourself as a leader in civilian life? And how did you kind of navigate those changes?
So I'll tell you, the first way I had to was I had taken a year off from work when I first got out of the service, sort of like call myself taking a hiatus. Done 27 years. I need to take a breather. But then afterwards, I wanted to work, so I went up to the unemployment office, which is the Veteran Service Department there, and I was telling them I was looking for a job, and he saw that I had the ability, had some background, a degree background, so he was like, I have this great teaching job. It's at this post-secondary school where they teach medical assisting and all this kind. I thought, okay, it's my world. Unbeknownst to me, I'm not a teacher. I'm not even teaching material, but didn't know that then. I was only thinking, drill sergeants. They know how to lead and do. And so I went over, they accepted me into the program. I got the job. I loved my executive director. She was fantastic. And they gave me this really defunct program that was not getting folks enrolled, and people didn't want to take the program. It was a 4-part program, so it was a little more extensive than just medical assisting. So my job was to revive this program. Well, okay, that's exactly what I did. I went to the recruiters there, and between the two of us, we started to actually advertise this program. And then once I got the kids in the door, the job was, you just gave these folks $14,000. I got to get you trained and get you hired. You got to pay that money back. And what I
Yeah,
realized that all the directors weren't thinking that way. I'm thinking military wise. I'm thinking
yeah,
mission completion. And so we worked very hard, and thank goodness to having connections in the medical field from, being at Fort McPherson and being the chief medical there for years, and at the MEP station on Fort Gilliam for a few years there. I got to know a lot of medical professionals who were willing to hire these young folks. So needless to say, I created a whole little platoon of young PCTs who wanted to do great stuff, and we inspected our uniforms every day. We did physical fitness training. I mean, we just sort of set a whole new precedence. But unbeknownst to me, that did not go well with the rest of the
yeah,
departments. I sort of overshadow that, and I'm looking at perfection, which is the military expects of us to do things and do them 100%. Most civilian communities may not think that way per se,
yeah,
and it was evident because I was fired.
yeah,
And what I found out what at will means in this state, it means that they can fire you at. I was like, well, what does that even mean? See, this
yeah.
is another thing
It's
about
a
understanding the
completely
community.
different thing from what we know. We work
Yes,
24/7, 365. So,
yes,
yeah. Yeah. So, and I have had some similar experiences, and being the person that I am, and I think we're similar in that way too. We are always wanting to help. Um I didn't really receive, I didn't understand why it wasn't received, because in my mind, I'm just trying to help, right? And for a
yes,
little while, it really affected me because it was taken out of context when, like I said, we're programmed to get the mission done by any means necessary, except unless it's, it has to be ethical and moral, right?
yes,
But
yes.
we're so programmed at getting the mission done, and we know how to tap into resources. We may not have the skill set, but we may know someone that does. So
Hmm.
we're all, and I feel like with us, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost like we're constantly redefining and trying to figure out where we fit in, because we do have so many skill sets that we can tap into, that on the civilians, which is, this is kind of what I want you to talk to as well, because which is why we offer the support that we do at DSP Waypoint, because it's helping them to transition from the military, transition their skills to civilian life. And you can kind of speak to that a little bit. How do we help them with that? Like, how can we support, or how can they, garner the support they need in that area?
So the first thing, Renee, I realized is that it's not so much as getting the veteran prepared for the community, it's getting the community prepared for the veteran.
Yes.
And so that's
Yes.
what people don't realize. The community is more than overjoyed and more than proud of our veterans. They love the military. They love how we protect this country, and they
Yeah.
want to do everything they can, but sometimes they don't know how, or they
Right.
don't know what to say. And oftentimes they show that through sympathy and empathy. And sometimes those are not the tools that are
Right.
good to use on a soldier or a veteran.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need good, whole, solid facts. So my job initially, I believe, was to enlighten the community on exactly how you can actually help a veteran versus you, because you can thank them for their service and they're very appreciative. But the next $1 million question should be like, hey, have you been enrolled in the VA? Or, hey, do you know what compensation is? If you don't, you need to go to WayPoint and let them tell you what this means. And so um, I want to armor up the community and give them the tools needed to be able to help these veterans move forward in transition. And even
Yeah.
family, more so families, because we're the most, we receive more sympathy from our families because they just don't know anything else. And not only
Yeah.
that, they immediately think that there's either something not right with us or we're different. We sound the same and we look the
Right.
same, but they know that
We're
that's not the same person. So helping a family understand who that veteran is in their space helps them to understand how they can better help. And so my biggest job going into any community, opening up any service centers, first of all, getting the community on board and understanding why it's important to transition veterans properly.
Yeah, I love that. Um, so DSP2 offers its services to veterans and families at no cost, right? Which speaks
Hmm.
volumes to your commitment to serve. Like I love that because you're not on active duty, but the mission still continues, right?
It
So
does.
how do you stay true to your mission and maintain that drive to continue serving others? I mean, even after such a long military career, how do you keep that fire going?
Some people join the military for various reasons. Some people join because they want to go to school. Some people join because they want the adventure. Some people join because they want maturity. But some people really do join because they want to be part of something bigger that's going to help
Yeah.
people. Really. And not trying to sound all patriotic or anything like that, because you know me, I'm human. I can go off at any time. But I really, truly joined because I wanted to help people. I wanted to see the world, but I wanted to do good in the process of, because I wanted to make sure that all that work and hard work and sacrifice my mom and dad did go through, that I was going
Yeah.
to show them that they raised somebody good. And
Yeah.
so I know that sounds hokey. I may sound corny, but it's a fact. And
Yeah.
so after 27 years of service and going through some stuff, coming back out and just sitting around knowing there were things that were undone just did not make sense to me. It's just not in
Yeah.
my DNA to sit around.
Yeah. I love this quote by Les Brown. I say it all the time. You can't see the picture when you're in the frame, right? And like I said, I've said this before, when we're serving in the military, when we're soldiers, we don't see veterans, right? We see the mission
Hmm.
ahead. We're working with soldiers. That's our mission. But coming out and you see, it's almost like there's more support needed as veterans than it is as soldiers, because like you said, we have all those resources at our fingertips, right? And it's
Hmm.
people like you and I who have overcome, because it's not saying that we haven't had our fair share of struggles or we're not struggling, but we've tapped into something that help us to keep moving, right? So in saying all of that, you've dedicated your life to empowering veterans and their families. So what advice do you have for veterans, especially women, struggling to rediscover their sense of purpose and identity after leaving the military?
I think the first most important thing is to make sure that you're transitioned. Make sure so you can come out and get the best job on the planet. You can get a lot of people do that. But I will tell you, within a year's time, you're going to start to feel the pressure of trying to take your old self and make it into a new self. It's like putting a round peg in a square hole or whatever that saying is. It really truly is. And I'm witness to that. And here's the kicker, Renee. It doesn't matter if you serve for 2 years or 27 years. Your mindset is different. It has to be converted back to a way of thinking that's more amenable to the community. Because
Yeah.
we were raised to do one thing in the military, and that's be a superhero. We
Yeah.
were trained to defend against all enemy. We were trained to be willing to take a bullet for this country. So our thought process is more heroic and more we just put ourselves in a category that only less than 1% of this country will do. So we
Hmm.
feel that that makes us special. The problem is when you leave that, that League of Justice, or it called the
Yeah.
military, you become just a regular civilian. You have to understand, just like Clark Kent did, and I'm not comparing us to superheroes of that way, but just know that when you put on the suit, he had to act a certain way versus when he had on his superhero outfit. And especially with women, because it's funny that after 27 years of service, if people didn't know me, they would never assume that I served. We're
Yes.
always the invisible heroes, because I call us the Wonder Womans, because we are in that invisible plane, and I guess they don't see us unless we have on that uniform. And
Yeah.
so we are the ones who, number one, you have to make sure you define yourself. Take a moment to figure out who you are, and make sure you are getting all of those services, be them physical, compensatable, or mental. And there's nothing wrong with it. I check my mental status every day. I have to, based on what I do for other people,
Yeah.
because I take
Yeah.
on a lot of other people's mental. So you have to make sure you keep your stuff intact. But love you. That's the first thing. So when you love you like Miss Renee loved herself, in which it's evident to see, and I hope there's evidence to see that I do love myself,
Yes.
then you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You can do whatever
Yeah.
you want. You want to do a
You know,
nonprofit? I'll show you how.
yes. One of the things you said that I absolutely agree with now that I know better, but I didn't do myself. I do believe that once we get out, especially if you serve for a long time, like you and I,
Mm-hmm.
we've served over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I really do believe we should take some time to decompress. Do not rush back. This is my belief. This is not what I'm telling anybody to do, but I do, because I didn't do this either, but it's an advice that I'm going to put out there. Don't rush back into the workforce, because
Mm-hmm.
actually you really don't know what that's like. Even if you get back into the federal government as a civilian, it's still different, right? So
Mm-hmm.
take some time, and it doesn't mean that the time is going to completely transition you. It's just, it gives you some time to reset a little bit and prepare yourself. And like you said, find the resources, the support, figure out what do I need to transition, because one of our biggest challenges, many of us, is the mental health piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to, sift through that. So we're almost coming to the close, but I want to ask you this. How are you living unapologetically today?
First of all, I'm very proud that I'm 62, and I tell everybody that knows me, yes, I'm 62 and living it and loving it. So I'm unapologetic about my age. Number
Yes.
one. Number two, I'm unapologetic about what I do and what I say, because two of things you always keep in mind. I never have ill intentions in mind to ever hurt anyone, but I always want my veterans to know fact. The fact is what you need. So if I have to give that thing to you straight, no chaser, that's exactly how you take that shot. But it's for your good. I'm going to take care of you. That's for sure.
Yes, and she is telling the truth. I told you I didn't know whether to salute or go to parade rest. I just sat still. But I love that she is very open, very transparent, and she does everything with love. I am proud to be your VP, and I am looking forward to continuing to learn from you and to serve. So, yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today. This was our guest today was Miss Sandra Brownlee of DSP2 Waypoint. So, Sandra, I want to last thing, how can our guests find you? How can we reach you?
Well, there's several ways you can reach me. You can always go to our website, which is dspwaypoint.org, and learn everything about us. You can even put in an application right there online if you're needing assistance. And understand, we say assistance, that mean in any aspect. We've covered all the gamut. These are free services. So if you need legal advice, I have a couple of judges who are willing to out there and give you free legal advice. If you need housing advice, if you need whatever it is, there is no question that you can't ask. So people, we have a list of things that we offer, but my thing is whatever that what if question is, be it you, the veteran, or your family member. Understand we do take care of your family members. We know you come as a package deal, even the dogs. So if you have any questions about any of these things, just do not hesitate to contact us. Our information is on the website. I think we have a Facebook page and some other Twitter stuff that I'm not keen on, but I know we got all that kind of thing. But
Yes.
any way you reach out to us, we will gladly reach out back to you. And you do not have to live in the state of Georgia. We've serviced veterans all over this country. We do things, through via web or Zoom and or email. So sound of my voice, if you need assistance with transitions, we will take care of you and we will do it free. We do have certified VSOs on board to make sure we give you the best possible care to ensure that you get what you deserve. Thank you for your service. I'm proud of each and every one of you, and you're like my family. So let's do
Yes.
this.
So that website again, everyone, is dspwaypoint.org. So reach out, and we will definitely provide you with the support that you need. So thank you, everyone. That's it for today. Thank you for joining us on Living Unapologetically Beyond the Uniform. I hope today's episode left you feeling inspired and empowered to take on your next chapter with confidence and purpose. Remember, your journey doesn't end when the uniform comes off. It's just the beginning. So if you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe, to share, and leave us a review. Until next Friday. So join me again next Friday at 11 a.m. for another powerful episode as we continue to redefine what it means to thrive beyond the uniform. Until then, keep living unapologetically.
This has been Living Unapologetically Beyond the Uniform with your host, Renee Jones-Hudson. We hope you found inspiration and valuable insights in today's episode. Remember, your journey of redefining, rediscovering, and reaffirming your life post-military is unique and powerful. Stay connected with us for more stories, advice, and support. Until next time, stay strong and stay empowered. Listen Fridays, 11 a.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network, powered by B2 Studios.